Good afternoon. Today I will be doing an oral commentary on After Apple Picking by Robert Frost. And some really quick background on Robert Frost. He was a renowned American poet known for his closeness to nature in his poems, as well as his simplicity, which appealed to many people. And his extensive amount of poems that he wrote include many natural motifs and symbols, because he had lived in New England and was at one point a farmer. And these motifs, as well as his use of poetic techniques and language, helped to build the theme in After Apple Picking of the difficulty and almost futility of completing dreams in one's life, as well as seeking one's desire. And in the poem, Frost kind of expresses resentment at not having attained his own dreams and lacking that kind of meaning that in his life that he kind of saw. And so in this presentation, I will go through the diction that Frost uses to support the theme built throughout the poem. Then I will go through the use of motifs that he uses throughout the poem to as well build this theme, and then I'll explain other interpretations that critics have had that also connect that to the theme of the difficulty of attaining one's dreams. So, looking at the title of After Apple Picking, we can see that it's describing the time or period after an action, and in regards to what the poem is talking about, it's specifically the event of apple picking. And so in terms of the theme that Frost presents in the poem, this means that it is the period after which he was seeking out his dreams, but then had failed to fulfill them. And so the poem, when you look at it and read through it, is in loose iambic meter, as well as a very irregular rhyme scheme. And so these two very irregular and not consistent things can be interpreted as the messiness of life that doesn't allow us to fill our desires and our dreams, as well as the uncertainty of achieving one's goals in life, because you're never certain whether you're going to fulfill your dreams that you have in life or not. So onto the actual poem itself. The first line states, "My long two pointed ladders sticking through a tree toward heaven still." And so in this line, the speaker's saying that he's still kind of holding out and aiming for his goal, and we can see that when he's saying his ladder is pointing towards heaven still, although this is something that will likely not come to pass, as we can see through the rest of the poem. As in the next line, he says, and there's a barrel that I didn't fill, and later on he says, apples I didn't pick upon some bough. And so both of the lines, these lines kind of show the lack of fulfillment of the task of filling the barrel and picking up these apples, and kind of the speaker's remorse at not being able to do these tasks. And these lines connect to the theme of attaining one's dream in life, because they show that just as the speaker was not able to do the task, Frost had attempted to be a farmer and yet had not attained his goal in his own life. And so this regret kind of followed him throughout his life, and he would later show that in his poems, especially this one right here. And so going on through the rest of the poem, we can see down in line 11, the speaker says, "I skimmed this morning from the water trough, and held against the world of hoary grass. It melted, and I let it fall and break." And so we can see with this breaking of morning, and morning representing kind of like opportunity and new and newness, such as when the sun rises on a new day. That kind of represents the shattering of dreams, because the decay of hoary grass and the breaking of morning show that shattering. And so down in line 25 through 27, it says, "For I've had too much of apple picking, I'm overtired of the great harvest I myself desired." And so this kind of shows the fatigue that comes from relentlessly trying and failing to attain one's goal. And he's kind of tired of the goal. He no longer wants it because of the amount of effort that he's been putting in of the apples, of picking all these apples. And he's had just too much of it, and he's getting burned out from it. And then down in line 29, he says, "There were 10,000 fruit to touch, cherish in hand, lift down, and not let fall." And so we kind of see this as like lofty goals. These 10,000 fruit are kind of like lofty goals that are futile to reach, for when those goals are kind of grounded, or when you try to make them more attainable. So they're kind of lost and worthless to the dreamer, to the person who has that goal. And so the motifs include the apples and sleep in the poem. And so the apples shown in most of the poem represent the goals and desires that people have. And picking them is the reaching for those goals. And then the sleep is kind of the acknowledgement of the futility of aspirations. And we can see this throughout when it says, "Upon my way to sleep before it fell, and I can tell what form of dreaming my dreaming was about to take." And so in his dreaming, the speaker starts to dream of his goals, which he can no longer attain. And this kind of shows the futility of aspirations, for his dreams are just that, are just dreams, things that can only appear, not in real life. And so going on to the other interpretations that other critics have had, they have said that Frost wrote this because it's a commentary on like the creative process, and that it's a commentary on the creative process with poetry, and that he'll write poetry, and that he'll have some good ideas, but then there are some ideas or things that they'll be lost to him, and he can no longer reach, and that kind of deal. And I'm over. Okay, thank you.